Hello. Feel it through the cosmos.
Oh, hi everyone.
Hello. There we are again. We didn't change our clothes. Here we
Oh
are.
shit.
Oh, different day. Hold on 1 second.
It's like a Clark Kent thing.
There you go.
Who are you? What have you done with him?
I'm Anthony Eric.
I'm Milanu Davidinus.
Dave, we're back. We're gonna get into a movie for the first time.
Ooh.
A Marvel Cinematic Universe release. We both watched it in relatively like around the time that it was in theater. We didn't wait for it to come out
Nope.
on the Disney Plus or
Yep.
none of that. We went to the theaters within the month. What made you want to go watch this one?
Admittedly, I think Guardians was the thing that I tended to like most of the films that have been made because it was probably, I would say it's closer to the comics, but it kind of isn't as well. Because like Guardians Volume 1, I loved it. I loved it.
I loved it. I loved it too.
But it was, I came out of it though going, what's different? What's wrong? I was a big fan of the film, of Volume 1, as it were, in retrospect. But yeah, the characters don't really line up with how they are in the comics. Not really. They're not like 100% like they are in the kind of War of Kings, Annihilation, Conquest era. But it worked. Like, it really worked. And a part of it was because they weren't as established and the history isn't as established. And even those comics tweaked their histories quite a lot. So actually, even if you look now, like Rocket Raccoon's first appearance is no longer considered his first appearance. They've made it an alternate universe. Same with Star-Lord, same with Groot. It's not the same Groot.
Right.
So they
very
tweaked
different
things
versions.
to
Yeah,
make
they
it-
did. Yeah.
So yeah, there was a bit more freedom. It was funnier. I like James Gunn's whole style. It's a good sense of humor to it. Little bits of darkness in there because I've got quite a twisted sense of humor. So it was kind of veering more towards that than the more safe blockbuster approach. It was fun. And I think did we see it twice at the cinema?
You saw it twice?
I saw it twice.
The first one.
The first one.
Oh, I thought you meant the most recent one. I was like, you saw it twice already?
When we sat in the most recent one, I couldn't. A lot of the stuff they were talking about, couldn't remember it. I can't remember Volume 2. Turns out, I thought I could. Barely any of it. And I've seen that twice.
I saw the first one twice in the theater, as well.
Did you?
I watched it with my little brother and a friend of mine, and then my wife was out of town for one of those rare occasions, and when she came back, I said, we got to go watch this. I really think that you'll enjoy it. And it wasn't on either of our radar when it came to movies coming out from the superhero genre, because I didn't know anything about Guardians.
Yeah.
Like, why of all the things are they going this route? And it seems like a spoofy comedy. I was really like, oh no. But it worked, like you said.
Yeah.
And it was one of my favorite additions up until now. Still one of my favorite. Probably that and Captain America are my two favorite 3 movies from the whole Marvel.
I love the Cap ones.
Yeah,
did you watch
those
2?
are
What
great.
did you think of 2 then? Do you think it was as good?
The one with Ego?
Yeah.
No, not as good.
No.
It didn't. It was good on what it built upon. I liked where they were trying to take it. I like that Guardians, as the movie franchise, it goes into places that are really obscure Marvel stuff that is pretty essential, and they find a way to be like, yo, that's Ronan, the Accuser, and like that's where Thanos really showed up the first time.
Yeah.
You know? And you start realizing, like, you see him at the end of Avengers, but this is where he's
in the story.
as cast. Yeah. He's seen completely, and you're like, this is pretty big stuff for this entire. You see how big they're gonna go with it now.
Yeah.
Because Guardians, they pulled it off really well. So, Volume 2, I liked it. I had fun. I'm happy that the story continued in a direction that was natural for this team, and I liked how they were used in the Avengers movies. It was cool that they were there. It wasn't like, why are they here? It's like, yeah, they should be involved in this story.
Yeah,
so I did enjoy that. It made it make sense. Exactly.
So then we hit Volume 3.
Yeah. They make a quick. You saw Love and Thunder, right? They make a quick appearance there.
Did you see the Christmas one as well?
I didn't finish it.
Oh, no.
Did you?
I did, but apparently my face hurt, and then I realized I was sat like this all the way through.
Yeah, that'll make your face hurt.
Yeah.
Keep it like that. It'll get stuck like that, Dave.
Thank you. Yeah. Welcome to the Omniverse Comics Guide. And I've got the glasses. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Like Alan Carr. Oh, thanks for coming to the Omniverse Comics Guide.
So we're at volume 3 now. I'll speak for myself before I ask you. I've been kind of hit or miss with the things that have been coming out in the last little while. It's sometimes been too much.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like you're going in territory where I'm not interested. I can't imagine non-comic book, like other people who don't like comics being really interested in this, but I could be wrong. So it's been hit or miss for me.
Yeah. Much the same, but the hit or the miss has been hit as in I actually bothered to watch it, but I didn't like it, or miss that I couldn't be bothered. I didn't like Endgame at all. I thought it was a poor ending. And I lost interest. And then I didn't like the second Spider-Man film. And I didn't really like any of the TV stuff. WandaVision was kind of fun, eventually. The first 2 episodes were like, I don't want to watch this anymore. And then I started to warm to it. But overall, I've kind of lost interest. But then when this was announced, I watched the third Spider-Man with some trepidation.
I loved that. That was the last one I really loved. I know we were different on that one.
Yeah.
But
Well, Misha said, like, she went, that's a Spider-Man movie. Like, and I said, like, 2 problems. Number 1, this is England. We don't say movie. And number 2, that wasn't Spider-Man to me. Just not at all. Not remotely. I know that there's like references to Spider-Verse, but they were already doing that in the Spider-Verse film, so it didn't make it feel special. I was confused by the fact that it was 3 Spider-Men from different universes, but all had different faces. Like, explain that. That annoyed me. Don't know why. Anyway,
I cried. I wept.
Cried because I wanted it to end.
Oh, I loved it. I did. I love that part on the roof of the school where they all talk to each other. I'm a sap. I'm a big sap.
That's fair enough. But the thing is, like, not saying that we're not one of these things where we start telling each other it's wrong to like something or it's wrong to not. But yeah, I hate it.
No, that's fair. And that's the thing. I loved it. You did it. You need to get both perspectives, right?
Yeah.
That's the key here.
Yeah. So, like, taking it through there, the first time I was excited again, I was excited for Volume 3, Guardians of the Galaxy. I like James Gunn. I like what he did on the Suicide Squad as well. When they made the announcements of the stuff he was going to do next for DC, I was really hyped. Like I wasn't expecting to feel hyped about any of this stuff anymore. And it was like the authority and all this stuff. And I was thinking, like, it feels like they're going to hit the right tone with him because he's got that trauma background. So yeah, I had high hopes. I wasn't. I think the thing for it in terms of that kind of more adult trauma inspiration, I didn't expect it to come into this film, because this was the thing that surprised me about Guardians 3 is that it's a body horror film for a lot of it. And like I was going like, what rating is this? It was a 12A here. And I was thinking, like, you can take your kid if they're 12 or under, and it didn't seem appropriate for kids. It's going to be different ratings in different countries, but like, who is this for?
Yeah, I can definitely say that there were uncomfortable people in the theater.
Yeah.
Right? There was it's not a movie that is as funny as it is, and some, like, you go from one scene to being funny and heartfelt to another scene being like so like scary, terrifying, sad. Like, oh my gosh. It was a little bit it was very the variation of emotion that you feel throughout it.
Yeah, so it's
so
a real roller
drastic.
coaster.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. Creepy and then funny. Emotionally, like you feel like a certain that love, that what's the word? Like nostalgia, sentimentality, and then it's just like, oh my goodness, this is traumatizing.
It's quite in your face, like,
yeah.
It's like, it's gore, but it's gore with aliens, so you kind of go like, does this count as gore or not?
Yeah.
So that was a bit weird. I think the emotional scenes kind of worked, like the stuff with Rocket. I do like references back to old school stuff, so it did reference that 4-issue Mike Mignola miniseries from the 80s, because like Layla is from that series. The character who was the walrus, I
Mm.
can't remember what he's called in it, but he's called Wall. He's a completely different character. They're both different characters. Layla is she's just an otter. She's not got robot arms or anything in the comic. She's like a anthropomorphic otter character. It's a
Yeah, I
very
felt
different
that I
thing.
thought she was familiar, and I wasn't sure if it was from the Rocket miniseries that Adam Gorham did,
Oh
but
yeah,
it's
I didn't
escaping
read
me
that.
now.
I didn't read it.
Yeah.
She's definitely in that old 80s one. That's more my
Okay.
era. But yeah, it did make reference to that, but in a very, very different way. But those scenes it felt necessary. It felt like we knew we were kind of gonna get this sort of thing. It might maybe not as quite as visceral as some of it was, or
Right.
emotional as some of it ended up being, but they were
Right.
nice scenes. They spoiled one. They ran one with the four of them in the little cells. I saw that before I saw
Mm,
the film, but I
okay.
wasn't going to watch it, and I thought like I'll just have a quick look because it might make me decide not to watch this film. And it's good stuff. Like it's nice, and it got you even just that little scene,
Mm.
But those were done well. Yes.
What? Okay. I don't know if we should jump to a score or tell me what you didn't like about it.
Was there anything before I do? Was there anything you didn't like? Were you pretty happy with like what they did with the characters, how the High Evolutionary came into it?
I got excited when I saw the High Evolutionary because I didn't know. I went in complete. I
Oh
had no
wow.
idea what I had no idea what the movie was going to be about.
Yeah.
Just that it was the final one and it was going to be heartfelt, and people were saying like it feels like Marvel's going back into the right direction. Like this feels like an old school Marvel movie,
Hmm.
and I like James Gunn, his take on what he did with the Guardians. I felt it was he got the tone right, made it work, made the humor work, makes the music work, all of that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel that other movies in the Marvel universe started to try have tried to duplicate, like in the Thor movies, for instance. That worked here.
Hmm.
Let's make it work with these characters. And
Yeah.
so I started to notice the forced humor in too many places because it worked so well with Guardians that when I see it in Guardians now, I forget that this is where it's supposed to be, and I'm just annoyed.
Yes. No. 100%.
So
100%.
it kind of like something like Thor: Love and Thunder ruins Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for me. And I know one movie's this and one movie's another, but it's like now I've seen other movies ruined it.
Hmm.
And I'm sick and tired of being made to laugh with some of these stories that would just be fun adventure stories. I know that it's like the first time you see the guy, but I did not like Adam Warlock.
Oh my god, that upset me. As soon as he came on, it angered me because the thing is, there's this whole thing. I appreciate the adaptation side of it. Things don't have to match the comics exactly. People that will say to me immediately when I say I'm not a big fan of them, of the interpretations of some of the characters, especially the more recent ones, they're kind of like, oh, you're just like, oh, you're one of those nerds. Like that isn't the character. I mean, it's just not him. Why
That's
have his name on it?
so you read. Sorry to interrupt you, but I had to ask this question because I read the Jim Starlin
Yes.
Warlock stuff. Did you read the earlier Warlock stuff?
I've read some of it. It's not
Was he
he.
ever like that character?
Oh no, he's never been that character. The
It was so annoying.
It was so
Like,
goofy, unnecessarily goofy.
like you're
It's
ruining.
not even funny goofy though.
It's
I
not
couldn't deal with that
exactly.
guy's face
It was
and his
irritating.
eyebrows.
Yeah, everything they did with Warlock made me feel irritated towards a character who I love Warlock.
Yeah,
I was so excited, and then when I saw, again, I didn't go in with any sort of spoilers to it. Funny that I'm spoiling it now, but the High Evolutionary, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like we're gonna see Counter Earth, of course. Adam Warlock. Oh, they're gonna make something work here. Like he's just Warlock right now is this for this scene,
yeah,
but then you're gonna see the transition. Like they didn't do anything with that character that was close. For me, this is what I want from a comic book movie. It doesn't have to follow the storyline exactly. You
no,
can't.
no,
It
you
won't
can't.
work. But you got to get the character right because it's the only reason people will go to watch it,
Yeah, the core of the
or
character is what makes that character work. I mean,
make them read the book. Like it
yeah,
keeps everything, the cycle alive when you get them right. For
yeah.
me,
It's such a jarring change. I mean, one of the reasons I really liked Adam Warlock is because he's probably, and I could be wrong, I'm not sure about how DC or anyone else was handling this kind of stuff, but he's like the second big, well, not big, he's not even that big as a Marvel character, but like his whole shtick is that he's kind of depressed. And I like that. Like, it's just so, like, he can do all this amazing stuff. He's almost the perfect man, and he's fucking miserable. You know, that's him, and he's trying to figure out a purpose. And it's the same as anyone, really. Everyone's trying to figure out their purpose, but you're seeing it through the eyes of someone who's meant to be perfection. And he's, perfection doesn't mean anything. It's almost like that's kind of the message of him. And just him figuring things out. And some of that stuff as well was commentary. Like, one of those issues, I think, was House of a Thousand Clowns, which I think was one of the last Strange Tales issues before it jumped back into his own series. It was a commentary on how Marvel was being run. Because, like, two of the characters running that was meant to be Stan Lee and Len Wein. So he was taking pot shots at Stan Lee in the story. And it had their names as, like, very thinly veiled references as anagrams. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he was doing. And then it had the whole Magus thing, or have you pronounced, apparently it's Magus. I've been saying it wrong all these years, but I always say Magus, so I'm going to stick with it. And they wouldn't necessarily have to do it in this, but like, he was just a goofy character, and literally the only purpose he served was to fly into people at speed and force them through a wall. And like, that happens so many times in this film, people flying into people and forcing them through a wall or through a window. And it just kept happening over and over again. I was thinking, like, okay, Drax can probably... I don't know what Drax's deal is in this film in terms of has he got powers or not, because it seems to vary. It seems to fluctuate. Is he superhumanly strong or is he not? Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. But then he'll go through a wall and he gets up and you go, okay. And then, like, Rocket goes through the wall. And admittedly, he's injured, but, like, he should have his head off or something. And then Star-Lord is going through, flying through the thing, hitting a wall. Everyone's hitting walls. And it just seemed like the same thing over and over again. And, like, literally, Adam Warlock's purpose there was to look like a tit and to fly through walls.
Yeah, acting like a infant.
Yeah. And it
like
wasn't even funny.
He's essentially a toddler.
Like, even if I take my brain out and go, like, do you know what? It's not the same Adam Warlock. Just deal with it. But it's like, this
don't put him in.
What are we getting from this?
Yeah, like, it's a waste of a. I don't like when they introduce, like, even with the Thor. I'm going back to the Thor. It's like, you've taken a really, really great villain. You've taken a really, really cool character in Jane Foster, and this. It's a heavy story.
Yeah,
like, it's
really heavy.
Really good. It can be funny. It's not to say that there's never room for humor. Of course there is, right? It's comic books.
Yeah.
It's just that you've done it to a point where you've spoofed it.
Yeah.
And I guess the Shakespearean drama that you can have in a Thor story, you got rid of completely.
Yeah.
Because there's humor in that. It's like, there's humor in Shakespeare as well if you know how to read it or kind of get the humor. That's the same thing when you read Thor. It's all this Norse speak, and it's I say thee nay. It's like, it's dumb.
It's ridiculous.
But in their mind, like, that's the humor. We laugh at it, but they're dead serious.
Yeah.
And in the Thor movie, it's just, and in this one, I compare them because it's like that jump between. It's almost like they put Thor in the Guardians of the Galaxy universe. You know how in comics there's like characters that are in the Spider-Man universe, even if they're their own solo title, or X-Men, and everything has a tone, or like, this is the comedic side of the X-Men, and this is, but with Guardians and Thor, they put them together. It's like they almost look alike, and they're forcing humor, and they're forcing the music, and it's just like, you're missing the story at this point now.
Yeah, and the thing as well, I think, with this, and I know that it feels like that did influence things in a negative way, and some people have made that comparison as well, like where Love and Thunder was such a wrong turn. And Guardians Volume 3 has almost been like the savior now of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Really, though, if you look at it, is it that great? Is it on the same level as the first film was? Personally, I don't think so. I know everyone's raving as well about High Evolutionary. I just found he was just a very shouty man. It's a very shouty man, and like the whole gimmick of his face, I could kind of see coming. It's obvious what's going to happen.
Right.
I kind of felt like if they'd done the mask, it might have been better. And then they take the mask off, and they could have had any number of iterations of what's under that mask. And it's like, oh, that's what's under. Okay, it wasn't twist. It's sort of supposed to be a bit of a twist, not a major twist, but like I don't
There was a lot that
care.
could have been done that I felt were missed opportunities, and I'm not sure if it was because it would be too hard to blend comedy with that, and they were telling a lot of like that horror aspect of Rocket's origin, which I'm happy that it's there as far as we know something about him,
Yeah,
and introducing the High Evolutionaries really cool to the Marvel universe.
it made sense. It made
It
sense to
did. It
tie
made total sense.
Rocket's origins in with the High Evolutionary, even though, like in the comic version, they're not remotely connected. Incidentally, quick plug: if you do want a High Evolutionary reading order, there is one.
Of course. Where can they
I've done
find
one.
that?
Well, it's on a website. I know. A friend said it to me. It's called the Omniverse a Comics Guide.
You don't say.
Yeah, as I say. Yeah. And his history is very, very different. But that's fine. The interpretation is fine. But like, there was a part of me thinking, like, would this be better if he was more controlled? Because he's literally just a guy shouting at a raccoon a lot of the time. It seemed a bit too no for me to be like someone that's at the level he is, who thinks they're very smart, and he's just kind of losing his temper a lot. It came across as a bit childish for me. I think if he was more controlled, he would have felt more menacing. But people are going like, yeah, but he's crazy. Going like, yeah, great. Like, is he? It didn't win it for me. I thought it was a waste of that character as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of past the point of being excited that they showed something that is obscure or like very much like I was very happy originally, like, ah, they showed Howard the Duck at the end, like how cool is that? And now
Yeah.
when it's, Infinity, again, I going back to Love and Thunder, it's just like such a cool concept that looks so silly.
Infinity.
In Love and Thunder at the end,
Yeah.
where is it Infinity or Eternity that he speaks to, where he finally gets to try to resurrect his daughter.
I can't remember now because I totally lost interest.
Yeah, and that's what happens. It's like these really, really cool concepts that I just feel you're missing. I feel,
Eternity. Thank you, Omega Bread.
yeah,
I can remember.
it was one of them. But yeah, it's these really cool concepts that you're just, for me, I nerd out about when I read in Infinity Wars or in Infinity Gauntlet
Yeah.
or Thanos, the Thanos Warlock, the one I always talk about, that omnibus that collects all the Alan Davis and
Oh yes,
Jim Starlin stuff.
yes.
Love that
Oh
stuff.
god, I can't
And
remember the name of it.
it's it is silly. There's no question that you read it and you're like, like Silver
But
Surfer from
it's
Dan Slott. But there's
there's a
heart.
difference though between suspension of
Yeah.
disbelief in these
Yes.
stories and
Yes.
just this is silly, like constant goats constantly all the way through. That's silly. That's like Police Academy
Getting
type
hidden.
silly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's
they
spoofy. It's
turned it
like,
into Police Academy.
yeah.
I mean, at least with this, it doesn't quite go that level. But there are times I think in this as well where I was kind of going, "Oh, come on," because I thought
Warlock stuff.
the Warlock stuff, and I think sometimes the characters are quite inconsistent for the sake of the joke,
Yes.
and I think the
Yes.
whole Gamora Star-Lord joke wore a bit thin. I didn't care because I've never liked her Gamora anyway. I think she's not Gamora to me at all. I don't like her as Gamora. It's not the character. She's the deadliest woman in the universe. Like, is she though? I don't buy it with her. I buy it with the comic version. She's kind of unassuming, but like, when she takes on someone way out of who in theory is way out of her league, and you go like, damn, she is the deadliest woman in the universe. Whereas in this, like, in what way? So I've never liked her casting. That's always been a thing all the way through that I've not been a big fan of. But like by the time they got around to this and she's like a nasty version of her, I'm like, oh, just can we leave her behind? I kind of preferred the Nebula stuff, and I like the fact that even though they alluded to it quite a lot, the possible thing with Star-Lord and Nebula, that it never happens. I like that. I like that it's unresolved. Another thing, there is one more thing before we jump too far into it and we don't actually give this any kind of rating. The end. Did you stay for both scenes?
Yeah.
You did. What did you think you'd got from that?
I saw Phi Lavelle,
Yeah.
which was like, okay, that's cool. So it was the new the new Guardians, I guess, were formed,
Yeah.
which wasn't unreminiscent of like the Dan Abnett team. Like all those people have been members of the team, if memory serves,
Yep.
right? Warlock.
Warlock,
So
Filer, yeah. A different Filer, but yeah.
yeah, different. So that's and his Phyla is not Moondragon. Moondragon is Drax's daughter,
Yes.
Heather, right? But okay. The last scene where he's having breakfast with his grandfather, I missed something. I felt like they were alluding to something,
Yeah.
and I completely missed it. What was it?
Well, that was the thing. Because I missed what he said, and I was going, sorry, who are they talking about? And then I was going like, what's happening here? And then it came up with Star-Lord will return in the legendary Star-Lord. And I thought,
Yeah.
is that a joke? Because, like, he's the legendary Star-Lord and they're going to do a thing where he's just sat doing regular day-to-day things. But then there's a comic series called The Legendary Star-Lord. The solo Star-Lord series they did post the films was called Legendary Star-Lord. And I thought, like, oh, does that mean they are going to do, like, a solo Star-Lord film? Or is this a joke? I wasn't sure. So I kind of
Me
was left
neither.
a bit like going, what?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if the grandfather had mentioned something to him and like the reference was an Easter egg or if it was just an inside joke and I missed it. I'm not sure. But I
Yeah.
didn't know the point of that final scene.
Yeah, he was talking to, they were talking about somebody and he was saying like he needs to pull his, the thing is, it sort of fell a bit for me because I missed it. I missed the point. I'm glad it wasn't just me, but like Misha was sat
No,
next to me going, no, they were talking about someone that you don't actually know, but it's not, don't worry about it. It's kind of, oh, okay.
yeah, there were things about it that I was really enjoying and I'm like,
And
yeah, I
I've
love
ruined
Guardians of
them
the
for you.
Galaxy. No, 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 no. I left the theater a little bit unsure of how I felt about it all. I knew definitely that I was very disappointed with Adam Warlock because I was really looking forward to seeing potentially where this could go because of what, you know, anyone who's read him in the classic stories, he's the guy that you get when you got to face Thanos,
Yeah, he is his
right?
opposite number, and he's very
Yeah.
serious. And actually, I think
Yes.
like if they'd gone with a very serious route in a otherwise quite silly, everyone's kind of silly. Well, Nebula's not, but
No.
what she seems to be able to do in this is quite silly. I did incidentally like that she can have her neck snapped and then just shoot things and then stand up. I will also say, counter to that, the constant choreographed battle scenes with the camera moving. I got a bit fed up with that. It just like do one really good one because like there's the
What?
whole tentacle gun thing,
Yeah.
and then it's like
Yeah.
oh the camera's moving, and yeah,
That's
and
the
then there's
classic.
another
Yeah.
one. It's like oh we've got how many more of these are going? Is this why this goes on for 2 and a bit hours?
What did you think about the actual plot of them having to go to what was the place called where they had to get the
Oh, well, that's
where
that
the
sucky skin place.
yeah.
It's all right. I
Well,
think well the thing it was just trying to get a reaction because like Misha was literally next to me going like it's that noise like ah! Whereas that doesn't affect me, so you're kind of going okay. Nathan Fillion I thought was like I don't see what the big fuss about Nathan Fillion is, so like I
people love Firefly,
great
right?
I didn't watch
That's
it, so it means nothing.
I
I'm a
feel like
miserable
his
bastard when it comes to
opportunity honestly, I feel like they missed the opportunity to cast him as Hal Jordan. He's done his comic book time. I thought he would have made a good Hal Jordan
Oh, okay.
back in the day when he was like, 15
Younger.
years younger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're at the point where he's finally showing up in these films and it's kind of like he just gets killed off.
Wow.
Like it's a joke, like it's a gag. Yeah, it was hard to know what the feel of this movie was going to be, whereas with the first ones, the humor in it, I understood that it was wonky and offbeat, but the characters were wonky and offbeat. It
Yeah.
all fit. Whereas this one, I feel like they went too far to the silly, to the now this is just one big joke.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that with the emotional roller coaster stuff, it's fine to do that, and I think it's quite nice to be able to do that.
I
It was a
agree.
heavy contrast. Some of the silly was like it was very silly. So who's this aimed at? This is aimed at you know people who are quite happy to watch Police Academy films. Which don't get me wrong, I love Police Academy too.
Yeah.
But here we are. Um, I was actually watching this thing at some point so distracted by the fact that I was trying to figure out who the audience was meant to be, because it
Yeah,
felt like a silly kids film, but it was too gory for a silly kids film. But it wasn't like
absolutely.
gory enough for it to be like a horror-ish. It was a very confused film. Not that things should be categorized. It's not about
No.
give it a label and so I know what it is. It's not about that. It just
Yeah,
felt like I wasn't sure, because I wasn't that happy with it. So as a comic fan who loves certain characters who are now not those characters, I wasn't that happy. Makes you seem to love it, not knowing anything going in. So maybe
that's
that's
probably
what
the
it
best
is.
thing.
It's not
Yeah,
knowing anything. If you are a hardcore comics fan, especially if you're into those characters and you know your stuff, you're either going to be able to forgive it and accept that it's a different thing, or it's going to be a struggle. Because like Adam Warlock I've followed his career now for a number of years, but there's a very set Adam Warlock in my head, and as soon as he was goofy, I was like, no.
yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. That's exactly that's what did it for me. It's you made him goofy.
Yeah,
Don't use him.
don't use
You've
it.
missed. You could have introduced him, I feel, for Guardians Volume 2 earlier, so that he could have
They
been
were going
included.
to. That was the
Yeah, they
plan.
should have.
And then
They should have.
he said apparently they felt like he had to include it because they'd alluded to it. But like, no, do you know what? No, you don't. You
No,
alluded
he
to it,
didn't.
but don't worry about it. Let someone else
Yeah,
do it. Don't force it into
yeah,
this. But they forced it in for no reason.
yeah. And I feel
Unnecessary.
like it ruined the movie for me.
Yeah,
That's the part
same.
that was ruined for me, where I can't. There's so much. Again, you don't have to follow the Guardians of the Galaxy series from any era. You don't have to do that story. But if you're going to have these characters, you got to use them in the way that they're useful in the stories. Like,
Yeah.
this is a guy who has a soul. Is it the soul
That's
gem on his
supposed to be the
forehead?
soul gem on his head.
Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
What powers him. There's a lot of, you don't got to get into it. The
That's when
Eastern
he
philosophy
becomes
of,
Adam Warlock in the comics. That's the moment when he gets. So the High
yeah.
Evolutionary gives him the gem, names him Warlock, because before that he was him, and
Yes.
he appears in a few stories, and then
Yes.
he appears in Marvel Premiere #1, and basically the High Evolutionary finds him floating in space in the cocoon, takes him out of the
Yeah.
cocoon, gives him a fancy,
Yeah.
funny costume with a lightning bolt on it, no cape, lovely hair. And then he gives him the soul gem. It's the first time you see any of the Infinity Gems before they were called Infinity Gems. It was just called the soul gem. It was the only one of its kind. Whacks it on his head and goes, "You need to sort out Counter Earth because I ballsed it up." Down you go, mate. And then it turns into like a Jesus analogy.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a lot, and Warlock, they start a whole church about the guy,
yeah.
right? The Universal Church of Truth
Yeah.
is like such a major part of Marvel Cosmic. Like this, where you can take this, where you haven't gone yet.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there would be something involved because I'm like, ooh, High Evolutionaries here. Like they're gonna make the Warlock thing work, right?
That's the concern
And
now, is that if they did that storyline in another Guardians film, they'd have, what would they have? A goofy good guy? Like, how is he even accepted as a good guy at this point? Because of what he did.
I don't know.
I don't get
I don't
it.
know.
And then they'd have, what, a goofy future version of the... How does that work? Like, how does
Yeah.
it... Or if they don't, he's really serious and he cries. I don't know. It just doesn't... And because if they
Yeah.
change him so hard to make it work, it's going to seem too jarring. They kind of balls that really badly.
Like imagine if somebody watched this movie and they're like, I love that Adam Warlock character in the movie. So cool. I'm gonna read some of his comics. You're not gonna find that.
No, you're not going to
There's
find
no
that.
that doesn't exist. There's
No.
no comic book where this character is like that at all.
No.
As far as I've read. So why would you you can't even
I don't
when
think
you
they're
read
even trying. Well, the thing they are. This is the weird thing with Marvel, and that they're trying to kind of pander to that audience. So if we see a goofy Adam Warlock in the comics now,
now.
I wouldn't be surprised. Not that I'm
No.
reading modern Marvel, but I wouldn't be surprised because that is what they're doing. But at the same time, no one's really making that transition. So it's a really weird thing. So if the comic fans aren't happy, and admittedly it's just two of us and that's 100% ratio, but I don't know how many other comics fans aren't that happy about it. I don't know. It's a weird transition. So the way they've done it in the past to make them happy is to make it more familiar. So yeah, they'd have to make Marvel Universe Warlock goofy to make it make sense.
I think they feel like the formula is lots of action, make them laugh, then you got a $1 billion movie.
Shouty villain. $1 billion film. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably my last.
Yeah, I said to Daff, I said, I got high hopes for this, and I love the Guardians. I like Guardians of the Galaxy from Jim Valentino. Like I'm a fan of the Guardians, just as a team, from whether the future version or the Dan Abnett series. But this one, I felt disappointed. I liked it at times, and then there were other times where I'm like, I'm it now.
Yeah.
Now I'm out of it. Now I'm invested, and now I'm out of it.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, okay.
Out of 5. What would you give it?
Average 2.5.
Ooh. Yeah. So I initially 3 in my head, but thinking about it, I was thinking earlier today, like if I had the chance to see it again, would I want to? No. I'm quite happy to never see that again. Although saying that, if it was on TV, it happened to be on TV, and I walk in the room, I'd fuck off and leave the room. I never want to see this again.
I never want to see it again.
So
no,
I didn't hate it.
I felt
no. Yeah, I think that the more time that's passed, it's only been like a week, not even, the less I like it in retrospect. So
yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, it's good. It's a shoulder shrug. If you like the first 2 and you don't care about the comics or the characters, go watch it. You'll have fun. Eat a bag of popcorn. But I wasn't. Yeah, it wouldn't make me want to go and buy a Guardians of the Galaxy comic. The first one did.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That would have hooked you. That would have got you onto Annihilation era.
All of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The first one made me be like, I want to read these characters again, because I enjoyed. I imagine the comics won't be as funny, but that's okay. I like the kind of stories
they kind of are telling. A bit though.
They are. Yeah, that's why the first one worked, because he got the tone right, that he was able to go in a direction that made sense.
Yeah. It made
now it's
sense.
just too much. Oh well.
But I don't know. That's hey. Do you know what? That was our first kind of film review thing, and we didn't like it. So if you want to see more of 2 middle-aged men complaining about stuff that has been ruined,
not like the comic. Well, there you have it, folks.
Whiny face.
You got for those watching on Twitch, you got a 2-for-1.
Woo!
For those watching on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, like the show. Repeat the same thing for the Apple podcasts, as well as Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to check out omniversecomics.guide, where we now talk about movies. Woo! And reading orders, comic reviews, all the people that are contributing. Thank you so much for all your help.
Yes, thank you.
It's a huge help, and shout out to all of you guys. You guys and gals know who you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dave?
Yes.
We'll be back soon.
We will.
More podcasting, more comic talk. I don't know. Is next week? Can we talk? Do we know?
Next week, we're going to do a speakeasy. We haven't done one in a while. I'm quite looking forward to it.
Fun.
No top 10s next week. We're not picking anything. We're just going to
conversation.
Chat shit.
That's right. Tune in for 2 middle-aged men chatting shit.
That's how we sell this show.
That's right. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back soon. Bye for now.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.